Hello and welcome to Inside the Mind of, a podcast where I dive deeper into the minds of some of my favorite people and people who inspire me in the wrestling community and beyond. And today I have a wrestler, a trainer, a gamer, a former NXT Tag Team Champion, Prince Pretty himself, Tyler Breeze. Tyler, how are you?
Hello. Wow, you made me sound important there. I like that.
Intros are kind of my thing.
Like
usually I'll read people's Twitter bios if they have like their accolades.
Sure.
But I mean, we got to start with the wrestling. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You're 18 years?
You know what? I mess this up all the time. I want to say I'm 18. We are coming up on... I got to use a calculator for this.
That's okay.
It's what is it? January of 2026. We'll make it 19 years. 19. So we are almost out of 18. We're on to 19.
I mean, first of all, how does that feel? Being almost a 19-year vet.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. That happened quick. That happened real quick. Sneaks up on you.
It really does. And I mean, what got you into wrestling when you were a little kid? What made you want to start wrestling? Was it a specific person, matches? Kind of what happened there?
It was just kind of, almost like the cliche, I always wanted to do it, dream type of thing. So the earliest I can remember is, I don't know how old you are, but we used to go to the movie store and rent the VHS tapes. And, with the family, we would go and everybody got to pick one out. And I would always pick like a wrestling one. And I didn't really know anything about it. I just kind of went, yeah, this looks cool. And my dad kind of showed me what it was and was like, hey, this is wrestling. And I was like, well, this is different. I like this. And I just kind of liked it in general. Like it wasn't a particular person at first who kind of got me into it. I just kind of liked it overall. And then I think as I started getting older and everything else, that it was like, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, they kind of solidified me as like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this when I grow up. But initially it was just kind of everything. It was everything about the show and, the wrestlers themselves and the matches and the physicality and the athleticism and, all that stuff that just made me go, I like this. This is kind of cool. So I like watching it. But it wasn't until a little later on that I knew for sure I was going to do it. And by later on, I mean like, 10 or 12. So not super late. But then, and then everything in, my life kind of just led that way where, coming out of high school, I was like, yeah, I'm going to wrestling school and then I'm going to go towards wrestling and everything comes back to wrestling. So it was always just kind of the direction. It was always kind of the goal. And then everything I did led up to that. So it was just kind of, I don't know. It just, for whatever reason, it grabbed me and that's what I've always wanted to do.
And I feel like that's with a lot of wrestlers. They kind of watch something when they're little and they're like, I kind of like that. Mm-hmm. Something about it. And then it leads them into that. Was the goal ever when you were 10, 12, WWE?
Yeah, so I didn't know anything else existed. So I was kind of, I was up in the wilderness of Canada. The stuff that I rented was WWF stuff. So I knew that WWF existed. I knew that was kind of the only thing. I had no clue that other stuff even existed. So it wasn't until later on, I think maybe I was renting like video games and there was, I just looked for wrestling games, but there would be like a WCW game. And I was like, what is this? Like, I don't even know. I don't know who these guys are. And I don't know, like, this is just like a made up wrestling thing. That's not WWF. Little did I know, obviously it had a whole life of its own, but not until probably about maybe 97 where there was starting to be some crossover. So like all of a sudden Vader, who I'd seen on like, WCW games was all of a sudden on WWF. And I went, wait, hold on. Like these guys are real and they're somewhere else. And I believe I had a neighbor who would tape because I didn't have cable. And so he would tape Monday Night Raw for me. And then he would, every Tuesday he'd drop off the VHS tape and I'd watch it. And I think he either accidentally or it was like right before Raw started, there was like a clip of WCW. And so he accidentally like recorded some Nitro. And I was like, hold on. Because he recorded Goldberg against Raven for the US title. And I went, wait, this is like a whole other promotion. And then, so then I clued in that like, oh my God, there's so much more to this than I know. And then I started, discovering WCW, and then I discovered ECW, and then, everything kind of bled over. But for me, it was always, the very first was WWF. And then, obviously I was growing up through the time when WCW was around, and then all of a sudden WCW was gone. So it was just WWF. So yeah, everything was kind of geared towards WWE, which it turned into, because, essentially it was the only game in town. ECW was gone, WCW was gone. So it was like, okay, like unless something else pops up, WWE is the goal, it is the place to be.
Yeah. And I mean, your dream did come true. You did end up in NXT. I would say 2013 was when NXT became what we now know it as, not the reality show that it was for, I think, 3 seasons. I would say like 2014, 2015, I would say you were a part of a very select group of wrestlers in that main card. You, TJ, Neville, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Bo Dallas. How did it feel, like, looking back at it now? You might not have possibly thought it at the time, but now, looking back, how does it feel being a part of that, like, core group of NXT guys?
Well, and at the time, like, we knew it maybe, but we didn't think about it like that because, there were so many people at the time who were like coming up right behind you. So you couldn't just kind of, be like, oh, I'm one of the main guys. Like, I'm going to be fine. There was so much talent at that time, especially with the guys, the girls, the tag teams, that you knew that you were a part of something special. We just didn't quite know how special it'd be. But we knew that like we were, kind of in uncharted territories here with like the underground feel of the NXT stuff, and NXT obviously blowing up, and then being able to fill an arena that SummerSlam's going to fill, and just seeing that NXT was kind of going where it was going with the WWE Network and everything else. And then when you looking back, obviously it's easier to see that you go, yeah, there was like a solid group that built this thing up to what it ended up becoming. And it was awesome. Like, obviously everybody was so interchangeable that, for the first bit, I think I had Sammy at the first takeover, and then TJ had Neville, and then, they put all of us together in the 4-way, and then it was just kind of like picking and choosing. So, and it all worked. That was the cool part. Same with the women on the other side. You had Bailey, Sasha, Charlotte, Becky. Like pick and choose whoever you want there. It's the same thing. Like it was all working, and the tag teams on the other side too. Like you had FTR, you had Enzo and Cass, you had Vaudevillains. You had same thing. Pick and choose who you want. It all works. And at the time, I think everybody was just so hungry to make NXT successful and be on it because everybody wanted to be a part of it. It was a great time to be a part of, and flew by, I would say, because like you said, like you don't notice much at the time how special it is, but then afterwards you go, man, that was really cool. That's a tough thing to duplicate, what I mean? And I don't think they've been able to duplicate it afterwards. Obviously it became something different, but that initial underground kind of growing of what it was, not only, turned out a lot of superstars, but also, it was just a cool, evolution, I guess, of what wrestling had become.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember I'm a big NXT girly, even to this day. It's one of my favorite things to watch. And you recently came back to NXT and faced Ethan Page. What was it like kind of coming back and seeing the new group of kids, like completely different from when you were there?
For sure, yeah. And I was just talking about this today. It is different. So not necessarily better or worse. It's just very, very different in terms of, at the time of what we were doing back then, everybody, for the most part, there was a few select people that didn't come from wrestling, but who took to it, obviously. But the majority of people were already, wrestlers who had been wrestling for a while on the independents, who came in and just kind of, honed what they were doing to get where they needed to be. Whereas now, not only has the roster probably doubled in size, at least, if not more, but a lot of these people are, they're not coming from a background of wrestling. They're coming from a background of athletics, and they're either learning to love wrestling, or they're just kind of trying it, or whatever. And, some take to it, some don't. But it's the hunger I think is still there. It might just be a little different where, I don't know if they fully understand what it takes, to get where they want to go. I think it's more of just like I sign on, I go to NXT, all of a sudden I'm on Raw and SmackDown, and that's just the way it goes. But they don't realize that, it's kind of what you put into it is what you get out of it. So, if they don't, go above and beyond and they pick these people's brains who are there, like the Shawn Michaels and the Norman Smileys and the Robbie Brooksides, all these guys, if they don't pick their brains to do more than just the drill for the day, they're going to get passed by really quickly because, again, the roster is gigantic. So, I think that's the part where, we lived it. We lived it day in and day out. Whereas, this is more of they're learning to live it, or they're being taught to live it, kind of thing. And like I said, some take to it, some don't, and that's just the nature of it. And that's why, there's so many people coming in and going out too. So.
Yeah, and you're right. It is like a different grouping of people, and again, nothing good or bad about it. It's a different learning style, and when NXT was just beginning to now, I mean, it was a reality show when it first was a thing, so it was people not really being into wrestling as much or kind of learning as they go throughout this random reality show that it was, which was all fun. I mean, we got the Nexus, AJ Lee, Naomi. We got fantastic people and cool things out of it. And cool things like you and Fandango became such a fun thing, specifically on SmackDown with the Fashion Files. I know me personally, I ate that up. I was in it. I love true crime, and like you including like that in wrestling was so much fun. The disguises you would do. Do you have a favorite disguise perhaps you've done?
You know what? I'd have to like rewatch all of the files that we did, because we did them for probably like 8 months straight, I think. And like every week we had new stuff, and the writers were having a lot of fun with it because it had nothing to do with wrestling, really. Like it was just, almost like Saturday Night Live skits where we were just having fun with other people and adding a little bit of wrestling into it or whatever it was. So, especially at the time, I know like a lot of people really enjoyed the Twin Peaks stuff that we did. Just because it was different. Like it was kind of like almost like a niche on top of a niche, where it's like, if you're into wrestling, okay, cool, that's one thing. And then now you're into this other show that like nobody else is really into. It's like this cult following. So you're like, oh my God, okay, cool. So those people really dug it. They thought that one was really cool. I really liked I don't know if it was dressing up as anything, but the black and white one that we did with the New Day was really fun. There was some that we did overseas where we were dressed like, like the cops from, England or wherever we were. Just nonsense stuff that was so fun. And then I think for a while I was really, we have a picture up at the school, I think. And it's one that we did with Spears, who was Ty Dillinger at the time. And I think it was when Stranger Things just came out. So like, it was like the big hot thing. And he was, obviously Ty Dillinger had the 10 thing, but he was 11, but he was dressed the exact same as me. And so it was like we were both dressed up like the same, person, but we were both being this 11, which was this take on Stranger Things. It was really goofy and it was really funny. And it was clever as hell for the writers who wrote it. And that one was really funny. And then I think they had me dress up like Renee Young. I was her sister, Tanae Young. And and I think actually I might have been interviewing Spears then too. And behind us was Dango, and he was dressed up like a construction worker pretending to do work. And it was just so it's just so ridiculous. And you're also adding in, I love that type of stuff where, if I can play off of people, I think I can be funny. On your own, being on your own and being funny is tough, but playing off of people, can make it easy. And especially if you have someone like Dango, who's so funny that oh man, that part was just easy where, they say cut or whatever, and we would just start laughing because it's just so fun. So, there was a lot of really enjoyable stuff in there. I'd have to go back and see to really, to nail it down. But yeah, they had me dressing like all sorts of stuff. Nikki Bella obviously was a good one.
Yes, I was going to say Breezy Bella was a hit. I feel like it was just recently I was on Twitter and I saw a clip of you when you were the janitor in the match.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like SNL, it's slapstick, it's funny stuff. And I completely forgot about the Stranger Things thing until you just said that.
Oh my God. There was some of them were so good. And like the unsung heroes were the Ascension were so good in those as well.
Yeah.
And the funny part, I remember they were mind blown because they were just in a random episode. And then we just kept having them in it all the time doing random stuff. And they're also very funny. Like if you put them in a certain part, they were so funny. And they started becoming so entertaining that we went to Europe for a tour, and the crowd was cheering them like crazy. They loved them because of Fashion Files stuff. And they went, I can't believe it. Like they're really into this stuff because of their little background stuff on Fashion Files. And it was awesome. It was really cool that like now not only was Fashion Files working, but it was making us bigger stars, and it was also making other people bigger stars. And it was like, now we're hitting everything here. It was really fun.
And it's like you just get to hang out, you get to do fun stuff, and you're helping your friends get over as well.
That's exactly right.
And isn't that what wrestling is?
Yeah, essentially. So. That's what I know it as. That's what it worked for me. So
listen, I agree. I'm personally not a wrestler, but I feel like that's how I would be if I was.
Sure.
So this is one of the questions I ask everybody, and I'm very curious about your answer. If you could have a table for three style dinner with three wrestlers, dead or alive, who are you choosing?
Oh man, like me and three people?
Yes, you and three people. So table for four.
Okay. I'm gonna say, oh man. Oh, this is tough because there's so many.
Yup.
I would say I would put in there Stone Cold Steve Austin, just because
he's a very popular choice.
He's just the coolest, man. Like all the interactions I've had with him, he's just been the coolest guy. So like, yeah, we're gonna sit there and we're gonna eat and drink and talk. Cause he's got so many stories I want to hear. He's the coolest. Okay, I need three more. So I think I got. Honestly, you know what? If I'm being honest here, I think if I'm gonna do, oh man, now I can go all over the place. I gotta do two. I gotta do two tables, depending on the day. If I'm going like I don't want to do all the talking. I want to listen to somebody. I'm going Stone Cold Steve Austin with Sean Spears and Xavier Woods, because I want all three of us. I want me and my friends to hang out with the greatest wrestler to ever do it and just have fun, pick his brain, and enjoy ourselves.
I love that.
If I'm going for more of like we're hanging out, we're having fun, then I think it's got to be Swiss, Chugs, Creed, and we're just partying and having fun and chilling out. That's what I'm going with.
And I was kind of hoping that'd be the answer.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I kind of wanted that to be the answer.
Because that's a tough one. That's such an easy we never have time to hang out. Let's just hang out. But if we're pulling back the limits here and we can put anybody else at that table, I need Stone Cold Steve Austin there.
And Stone Cold is a very popular answer.
Yeah.
I think at one point I went through all of these, and Eddie and The Rock were like 1 and 2.
Eddie and The Rock, they're up there too. I know for me, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, in my opinion, he's the best to ever do it. He's the biggest star that wrestling's ever seen. And again, every interaction I've ever had with him, he's been so cool. But he's in a category of his own where like the genuine wrestling fan in me can just like, I can sit there and I can interview him with all of my questions that I want answered because I have a million for him. And it's just like, I want to know, I want to know, like, you tell me, dude, like, give me the best interview you've ever done, because that's like, it's one of those few things that still interests me. You know what I mean? Like that interests me is picking his brain and just hearing, you know, how his journey was, because it was way different than mine. And he got way, you know, to the top of the mountain. So, you know, again, I grew up watching him. I got questions for days.
Yeah, you got to give him his own Broken Skull session.
That's right. That's right.
It's only fair.
That's exactly right.
All right, we're gonna shift a little bit away from wrestling, but you did bring up the party.
I did.
So we got to talk about Up, Up, Down, Down. What has that been like? I mean, I know you guys are mainly just doing Battle of the Brands, you and Creed right now. But what was that like, kind of backstage and with you and Creed, and being like, so can we just play games and hang out with our friends on YouTube?
So it wasn't really like that. Like we didn't really ask. Like nobody really knew at the time, like what anything was. So what it was, and this is, you know, almost maybe more of a question for Creed, where he had an idea, and his main idea was like, he knew that streaming was becoming a thing, and he knew, like, because I know that like Broski, Zack Ryder before us, he had done YouTube stuff. So he'd put out YouTube videos, and like he kind of went a different way with it, where it was more like content, I guess. But Creed knew that, like, in the gaming space, you know, obviously wrestling and gaming and certain things go hand in hand. So he knew there was something there that nobody had touched on yet. He just didn't know fully like what to do or how to get into it, or how big it was going to get. Yeah. So he initially, it was just him. He was, you know, he'd bring a backpack on the road, and he had, I think, a PlayStation in it maybe, or he had his laptop with like a game on it, and he had a little webcam, and like he would just kind of play a game, and he would record it, and then he would edit it, and then he would, like, I think he started the YouTube channel and was like, yeah, I'm just gonna put it out on this thing. And then as like it started to kind of grow, then like he would get people who were backstage, and like, you know, obviously I went and joined him, and so like we would just hang out and play. And then I went, what are you doing with this? And he's like, oh, I'll just like put it on this YouTube channel. I said, oh, that's cool. And like we never really thought anything of it. And then I think WWE started cluing in that like YouTube was a thing. And so I think, I'm not sure of the chain of events, but I know he essentially like signed over the YouTube channel to them for them to run it. And then because, you know, everything was starting to work a little bit, then now all he had to worry about was getting, you know, guests on and filming stuff. And then when he filmed stuff, I believe then they hired somebody, and then he could like give the footage to them, and they would edit it. And so he had like one editor. So he still had to record it. He still had to bring it. He had to transfer everything over, and then they would edit it. And then it got bigger from there to when now they hired somebody else, and now somebody's there filming it for us, and then now they edit it, and now he doesn't have to bring any of that stuff. And then it slowly just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger into what it was going to be. But yeah, we had no clue really, like, you know, how big it was going to get, or you know, kind of just figuring it out as we went. And a lot of that is just, you know, Creed wanting to, you know, he's always been, I guess, curious in terms of like everything. You know, as long as I've known him, he was, you know, busy getting his PhD. He was, you know, figuring out editing software. He was figuring out there's always something that he's like, I'm figuring this out. You know, I'm teaching myself to play bass. I'm doing whatever. Yeah. So there's always something that he's up to. And, you know, this was just his passion project that he went, you know, I want to do something with gaming and wrestling that goes hand in hand. And, you know, then that even morphed into, you know, getting these guys who aren't necessarily on TV, getting promo time. You can actually, you know, essentially get promo time when you're on Up, Up, Down, Down, and you talk and you learn about these guys, and then you end up forming an attachment to them that you otherwise wouldn't get. So then he liked, you know, obviously giving a platform to people who, you know, maybe were not being used or whatever. And then, you know, that to him is what he liked about it, to where that made it even bigger, because now people wanted to be on Up, Up, Down, Down, because then they wanted to, you know, get their personality out there. And it just kind of grew and took on a life of its own, obviously, you know, growing into what it turned into. But yeah, that's all his vision, man. And I just liked hanging out with him and playing
and creating, I believe it was Left, Right. That's
right. So I was talking to somebody today about it. There was like, you know, how did that come about? And I honestly could not think of how we started it. I think it started by I think we were going to film like an offshoot of Up Up Down Down with NXT people and call it Left Right. And I was going to host it, and Woods wasn't going to be a part of it at all. So then I think that's when we started getting Cole on there. We started getting a couple other people on there. And then as they moved up, you know, and the pandemic stuff happened, then all of a sudden it just became like, oh, let's have like this like rival faction type of thing. And it just kind of like went where it went. But I don't think we initially had like a plan for it. It was just like a fun little thing that we could do to get more people involved. And then it became what it became.
And just, I don't know what it is about the playful rivalry you have with Creed. It is just so fun to watch. Like, you guys really are just like brothers hanging out. That's
exactly it. And I think it's because it's not manufactured. You know what I mean? Like when you have people with connections, it just works. And then, you know, some people have tried to recreate it, you know, or like you go, hey, we like this person and this person, so let's put them together. And then you go, well, it doesn't really work that way. Like, they have to get along, and you know, obviously, you know, you have to have a connection with that person. And Creed was one of the first people that I talked to when I got signed in 2010 down to FCW. I think my first match was with him and Seth in a triple threat on some live event. And I knew Creed had been on TNA. I knew he was like a named guy. So like we started just talking, and then we became cool, and then we lived together, and then, you know, we moved from Tampa to Orlando together and lived together. And, you know, like we've just been, you know, tight ever since. So again, it's just one of those connections that it just works, and we don't even have to try. It just kind of like, you know, okay, hey, you guys are going to do this. We go, yeah, whatever. And then we just go, and it just happens. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. You just can't find that every day.
Yeah. And I mean, you could probably say that about Swiss and Chugs as well. Like the connection the four of you guys have.
Yes.
All of the Uno shenanigans. I've never seen so many, and I love it. You guys even made a song.
That's right.
Do you like think about that and you're like, damn, that's crazy. We made a song about this.
I mean, it's all kind of crazy. Like, this is, there was a tipping point where, you know, like we would go and do signings and stuff like that. And we would have more people talking to us about Uno than our wrestling careers. And we just went, oh my God, guys, like we initially did it just because we're all at home and we're like, we want to just have fun and do whatever. And then just like everything else we've done, we toss it out and people happen to like it. And we go, I don't understand why. I don't understand why people enjoy this, but they do. So then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we did it every week and every week and every week. And again, I don't think it would have worked with anybody else. Like I've refused to play Uno. Once we started doing it, and like, you know, doing it over and over and over, there's been a lot of people who have said like, you know, hey, can, you know, you come and play, or can this person come and play, or whatever. And I'm like, Uno's with them. I can't play with anybody else, just because that's like our special thing. And, you know, like I said, there were so many people that enjoyed it and enjoyed, you know, what it ended up becoming, which was, it was pretty insane that like it grew into what it became. And I was like, this is just, it's nonsense. Like, it's just us playing around, and, you know, we don't even remember most of the time what happens, but you guys do. And that's what was the cool part about it.
I think it's because, like, for me personally, I like wrestlers who can just be themselves, and it's not all about wrestling.
Sure.
Like, you and Spears or Dilly have the Sweets, your own Twitch channel, and like Chugs has his, and you guys all have these separate things. And you guys just, like, you specifically, you just talk to chat. You do some rumbles, you hang out, you guys play Dead by Daylight, and it's so fun for like the fans to see this different side of you guys.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool part. Like, you know, obviously you were talking about Up Up Down Down, and it's just, I guess, the human side, because, you know, wrestling is cool and all, but it's very like, you know, one or two sided of what you see of these people. And then when you really get to, you know, learn about the human, like, you know, I would say a lot more people, especially at this point, you know, like there's people who are fans of me initially from my NXT stuff or whatever, but I would say way more people are fans of my stuff from Up Up Down Down, and, you know, really seeing how ridiculous my personality is on, you know, all these other settings that aren't in a wrestling ring. And that's the same with a lot of other guys. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at Claudio, you know, one of the best wrestlers you're ever going to see, but he's a whole different human when he's playing Uno. And it's insane,
and I love it.
And people love it. People love it. And same with Chug, same with Creed. Like we're all the same. So when people see that other side, then they like your wrestling even more because of the person that you are. So I fully get that.
Yeah, and I mean, I have had the experience of meeting Adam Cole in person. No joke, one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my entire life.
He's exactly what you'd see on Uno. Like that is 100% him. We're just fully in him. He's the nicest guy in the world. You know, you got to push him really far for him to not be nice.
To break a little bit.
That's right.
Oh, and like you guys had different personas and stuff on there as well. I can't remember his with the sunglasses and the fake mustache. I can't remember what Tony, it is. It's gonna bother me. Yes.
Big Tony, Swiss Big Tony, Chugs and Ronald.
Ronald, yes. Ronald
was the mustache. Ronald was
just, again, ridiculous, fun, different sides we get to see of you guys.
Yep.
And then you do all that. You're a busy man, and you and Sean Spears come together and say, you know what we need to do? Start a wrestling school.
That's right.
So kind of walk me through what happened with the conversation with you and Spears to create Flatbacks.
So I think like initially, you know, like even as I was coming up in like 2014, 2015, I always knew like the way that my coach Lance Storm ran his school. I was like, you know what, that'd be a good like secondary thing. Like once I'm done with wrestling, you know, this is a good like, you know, retirement plan or whatever you want to say. I was like, this is a good thing that you could look into, you know what I mean? And so then even way before that, like even again, as I was figuring my stuff out in 2014, 2015, I started to have a lot of people come up and ask, you know, for my opinion or my advice or my help or whatever. And I think maybe because I was figuring it out for myself as well, I just kind of had a knack for like explaining it to people in a way where it would translate and they could, you know, understand what needed to be done, because wrestling can be really confusing, you know, depending on who's coaching you or who's translating it for you. And that's a lot of it is just translation. Someone can tell you the right thing, but if it doesn't click for you, you're not going to get it. So you need someone else to explain what they're trying to say. And I found that I was just able to do that for a lot of people. So, and even more so, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the coaching part. I enjoyed watching the light bulbs go off for people. And so I knew at some point I was probably going to open it up. It was just a matter of schedule. You know, it's hard to do it on your own unless you were, you know, I was still on the road at the time. So I was like, you know, if I open it up, I'm gone most of the time. So I can't do it. So it's got to be at a time when I can do it. And then with Spears, he's probably the closest that I've found. I mean, definitely the closest, but you know, by far, of somebody who thinks the same way I do in terms of wrestling and everything like that, because you can't open up a school with somebody who thinks, you know, way differently or has way different opinions than you, because you guys are in a clash over everything. But we are pretty much spot on where, you know, we're finishing each other's sentences, or like, you know, I'm about to say something and I look at him and he's already got it and I go, yep, we're good. Which again is hard to find. So when 2019 rolled around, we were starting to look at a couple things and I went, you know what? I think we did a seminar. He was gone. I think he had just left WWE, and he did a seminar and he was like, hey, do you want to like just come and help me with it? And I said, sure. So I went over there with him and we just, you know, kind of essentially got like a feeling, a general like idea of like, man, there's like a lot of people out here who could use some coaching. And so afterwards I was like, you know what we should do? I said, instead of going to like other people's schools and doing seminars, I said, between the two of us, we could probably open a school and like manage the schedule. And he was like, you think? And I said, yeah. I said, because I think he was going to AEW at the time. So I was like, I said, you do what, Wednesday? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, I'm booked Tuesday. I said, so if you cover Tuesday, I could cover Wednesday. I said, and then, you know, we'll fit in Monday or whatever. I said, we can make this work. And so we looked at it, we found a building, and then it was like, you know what, let's do this thing. And within like a month or two, it was up and running. And we went, cool. Yeah, it actually like, yeah, it can work. And like, we're getting students and everything else. So we just kind of figured it out from there. And, you know, I think, yeah, it was 2019. I want to say June 2019 was our first class. And it was fun. You know, we both enjoyed the coaching aspect. I mean, him obviously now he's a coach at NXT. And just once you kind of get the ball rolling on something, like now it's just clockwork. Now we got it down. Now it's we got what we do, and we got our new kids coming in, and we got, other ones going up to SmackDown and AEW and NWA and everywhere else. And it's like, okay, we got like stuff cooking here. So just, an idea that instead of thinking about it and kind of humming and hawing over it, we just said, screw it, let's try it. And we tried it and it worked, and here we are.
And I mean, multiple like current wrestlers have gone to the school or came up through the school recently. Harley Cameron just talked about being there training with you guys. I mean, Cassie Lee, Jess McKay, multiple of specifically the women, I feel like how am I trying to phrase this? Like Bailey, for example, is doing that seminar thing in, I think, this weekend, if not next weekend. And she said she wanted to have something specifically for the women.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, when you started training, for example, like at Lance Storm School, how different the scene is now, where there are all of these women coming up and they can have their own specific thing.
Yeah.
And then you and Spears get to kind of help that. And like Cody Rhodes has his school, Booker T has their school. Is it interesting that there are so many wrestling schools now?
I feel like wrestling schools have always been, one of those things. Like when you're a wrestler, you got to think about where your bread and butter is, right? So, especially back in the day, like a lot of these guys, they were wrestlers and that was it. So like once their wrestling career was done, what else are they going to do? You know what I mean? They can do the indies and they can open a school. That's about it. So any of them that, essentially figured it out, they started a school or whatever. Now I'm not so much surprised that there's so many schools, because a lot of what happened, and actually we found this with Twitch of all things, when, it's just kind of I don't want to say a follower mentality because that sounds bad, but it's like when we started doing Twitch during the pandemic stuff, there was a lot of people who went, hey, what is this? And then you explain it to them and they go, can you make money doing that? And you go, you can. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, I'm going to do it. So then they open up one and then they find out that you got to actually put some work into it. And if you don't, then you're probably not going to make any money. And then you can't it's not like you just hop on and all of a sudden people are showering you in money. It doesn't work that way. Like you got to invest and put some time into this and make a product that people actually want to, be a part of. I said, so that where, same with the wrestling schools, in reality, wrestling is hot right now. Like it's everybody's, there's a lot of wrestling out there right now. There's a ton of wrestling. So if a random stranger opened up a wrestling school, they'd probably get students just because that's just how wrestling works. The fact that there's so many reputable schools now is a good thing. Obviously, Cody having his, Booker having his, us having ours, there's a lot out there. It's just a matter of, if you're a person aspiring to be a pro wrestler right now, I know for me and Spears are, I don't want to say bad businessmen or salesmen, where it just feels, I feel like a used car salesman when I'm trying to sell myself of hey, you should come to Flatbacks because of this. Like for the most part, we just kind of go, who we are, where we've been and what we've done. If that seems like something that interests you, we can help you along the way. If you'd rather go, somewhere else because these guys are bigger names or they give you a better price or whatever it is, all the power to you. Just, if you're getting into this, obviously make sure you're safe, make sure you know what you're doing. And again, I should have a list beside me because every time I do this, I forget somebody. But the amount of people that, have come in and out or are succeeding, from coming to the school and stuff like that is growing very nicely. So, all of our students that are going on to do bigger and better things is fantastic. So, the more that they go, oh yeah, hey, I trained here, by the way, it never hurts. So.
You brought up the Twitch thing and the pandemic. That's how I started podcasting, was the pandemic.
That's right.
Everyone has a wrestling podcast.
That's right. That's exactly right.
There's too many of us. There's so many. We're too many. We're growing by the numbers. We're growing by the day. It's scary. Another question that I always ask everybody, and the answers vary across the board to funny to serious. If you were writing an autobiography about yourself, it can be your entire life, part of your career, what have you. What's the title? And explain why, if you want to. If not, it's okay.
Oh, man. You know what? We should have. Damn, we used to joke about this on the road all the time because it'd be like, you'd be just hanging out with the boys or whatever, and somebody would say something funny, and you would go, "Oh man, that's the Tyler Breeze story right there." And we had so many, and they were great, and I should have wrote them down, but I can't remember any of them. So if I was to say what my autobiography would be, let me think.
You're good.
Damn, that is tough. That is tough.
It's one of my favorite questions to ask because
it's
people really gotta think about it.
It's a very good question, and
Thank you.
How do you sum it up? How do you sum up?
Exactly. Some people just do like a specific story, and they're just like, boom, that's the title.
Yeah. Me, I always tend to go towards comedy. If you haven't.
And I love that.
But I'm trying to think of what it would be. Damn, we got to revisit that. Let me think on that.
Okay, no.
I don't want to just throw one out here. I want it to be good.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. And I don't interview many wrestlers. You're actually the second wrestler I've actually interviewed, and I thank you for that. Is there something in your career that you wanted to do but never got the chance to specifically do?
That's good too. I would have liked, I would have been very curious what an actual Tyler Breeze singles run on Raw and SmackDown would have looked like. Because, obviously you got to see what it was like at NXT. And I just don't think that character ever got a chance on Raw or SmackDown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's just, if it was treated like how it was in NXT and taken seriously and given a chance, I think it would have been pretty good. I think it would have been similar to how NXT went. And that's probably the biggest thing for me. Like, it's not, for me, it was never really about titles and stuff like that. If they happen to fall in your lap, it was cool. But, I wouldn't say, I never got to, win this title or that title or whatever. Or, even wrestle on a WrestleMania. I've been on WrestleManias. I just never had a singles match or anything else. I felt very much a part of the company. Like, I didn't feel like, some dude who was just like, he's just kind of this loser as a part of the company. I always felt like a part of the team, a part of the company. I think the only thing that really, I'd be curious about is, an NXT-like run on Raw or SmackDown, with some of those players that were up there, and just if it would have gone a little bit differently than how it ended up going.
Why do you think that is, that some things work in NXT but they don't translate to main roster? Do you think it's like just crowd difference completely?
No, so I know exactly why, and it's
okay.
For the most part, it was Vince, right? So Vince is, say what you want about him. He's, the most successful promoter of wrestling that there's ever been. He's had some good ideas. He's had some bad ideas. Nobody's perfect type of thing. But at the time, because it was Triple H and it was Vince, there was kind of a big, power struggle type of thing going on, to where Hunter had NXT, Vince had Raw and SmackDown. And at the time, just anything, and I don't know, the ins and outs of it. I don't know why, there was a little bit of a clash here and there, but there was a lot of them. But when someone got called up at the time from early NXT stuff, no matter what, Vince would always change at least one thing about them. So like for me, for example, like if you watch the NXT stuff, I built Tyler Breeze very specifically to where like he didn't need a tag partner, he didn't need a valet, he didn't need anybody to talk for him. He was what he was. Yeah. And immediately when I got called up, they put Summer with me.
Yeah, and, that's right.
Nothing against Summer. I just didn't need her, to because I knew it would kind of mud the waters a little bit where it was like, okay, well, is that like his girlfriend or is that like his, manager or like what is she?
Yeah.
And, again, I was very specific on how I made Tyler Breeze to where it's like, I don't need someone to talk for me because, if anything, that was my strong suit was the character part. So I was like, I don't need that part. And I don't need, I don't need anything added to the character. And I think by adding her to it, it immediately kind of put it in a different category and a different feel to it. And, like it was what it was. It just, it was very different from NXT right off the hop. And, even when you look at other people, when you look at like Carmella, I remember they called her up and she was doing her thing with Enzo and Cass. And she was a full, like she fit with that group. And when they called her up, she's just about to debut, that night. And Vince called her in and he said, yeah, we're going to take away that, the kind of that Enzo and Cass, feel, that the way you look, the promo that you say, all that stuff. We're going to take that away. So what do you got? And I remember she came running up and was like, you got to help me because I have no clue. Like, and I said, okay, well, they just don't want you to do like the Enzo and Cass stuff, right? And she was, yeah. I said, then just adjust the promos to like talk more about you, but like how you're going to be, like whatever, and we tweaked a couple things and made it work. But, again, you take something that works and then all of a sudden you change it on the night of where you're going to debut and you're like, why are we doing that? And it's just the way that it was where, when somebody got called up, at least one thing was going to change. And sometimes that thing was big and sometimes that thing was small, where again, you've seen a million examples of it where you get Karrion Kross going up there and all of a sudden he's in this mask and everything else, which is night and day different from what he was doing in NXT. Or you get people where again, it's adding somebody to it or one little tweak here and there, but it really, throws somebody off when you're in the groove of it and you've essentially been training this character so that you can just make a lateral move to Raw and SmackDown. And when you start messing with that, there needs to be some time to work out the kinks again because you're switching up the the dynamic of it. And some people can do it and some people can't. And it depends on if not necessarily if they're booking you to succeed or fail, because they never want anybody to fail, but it's just not giving you your best opportunity to show why you were succeeding down at NXT. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, when people get called up, they'll kind of blame it on on the booking or whatever it is. And it's not necessarily that. It's just being able to adapt, to different circumstances.
Yeah. Jesus. It's something I never really thought about, but now that you say it, characters that I was a fan of in NXT, they come up to main roster and like you said, it's something, it might just be something really small, but you notice it as a fan. And I don't know, I can't speak for all the fans, but me specifically, I have noticed some things here and there. And it always bothered me. So thank you for answering that for me.
Yeah.
We got to come back to it, Breeze. Autobiography title.
Autobiography. So I'm thinking something along the lines, and this might not be it.
Okay.
But something along the lines of like learning to fall up, up, and down, down. Something like that.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Something like that. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of wrestling. It's a little bit of, we're mixing both worlds here.
And I would expect nothing less. Like that's what it is. It is the wrestling. It's a little bit of everything else.
That might be it. I should write that down. Otherwise I'm going to forget again.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying before, people were saying funny things and you didn't write them down.
A million of them.
Like every time I do an interview and I always I write them out.
Yeah.
Like I write out my questions and I write shorthand notes of everything.
That's how you got to do it.
And my friends, I love them to death. My podcast friends, they're like, why are you writing everything? Because I need to see it.
I'm the same.
I'm a visual person. Like,
Yeah.
if I were to ever start trading, it's not going to happen. I got terrible knees. That's not going to happen. I'm very much a visual person, so I would have to see something and like physically do it.
Sure.
Like Zelina just did a stream with some YouTubers that I follow, Senna and Valkyrie, and she taught them like bumps and specific submissions.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's so funny to watch.
Yeah.
And one of the streams, Alistair actually shows up and helps. And it's just, especially because he's just such a stoic person.
Sure.
And when he cracks a joke, you just don't expect it from him because he's just so stoic as a person. And that's the type of thing I would need. And I'm glad that, and I even, like, we were talking about the Twitch stuff. Zelina is also a big component of that, doing all of her Twitch stuff too.
Yeah.
Tyler, is there anything you want to ask me?
What is, you know what is like a number one fun fact that you would say? Like, if someone was like, tell me something and it's going to, like one of those things where they would go, what, really? Like something about you that would give you that. For example.
Okay.
I have never once in my entire life eaten a Big Mac. Never
Actually,
tried
same.
it. There you go. No, but that is like the minority of people. A lot of people like would go, really? Like you never even tried it? Like not even once? Like it's just one of those things. And yeah, that's mine.
Huh. I'm trying to think of what I used to like. You remember in schools and they'd be like, all right, icebreaker time, even though you've been going to school with these kids your entire life. You're right. Like, I know Bobby from over there. What are you talking about? One thing I distinctly remember always using freshman year of high school, the summer going into that family trip to Vermont, I climbed the tallest mountain in Vermont. Took 8 hours. Mount Mansfield.
Is it a full climb or is it like a hike?
A little bit of both.
So do you have to use like gear?
No. Towards the top, it got sketchy.
Yeah.
There's a specific picture that is lost in the ether at this point of my cousin helping me over the top, and it looks like he saved my life because it's just like a drop.
Gotcha. So it's not like you're, going up Everest here, but it's also not just a nice actual hike either.
Yes. I mean, they do have like, some of us took like, there's like a drivable path. We took that down because no, it took 8 hours. I'm not doing that again. Yeah. But like my brother and my uncle and my two cousins, they're like, we're taking the entire path back down. What do you mean? And just monkeying it. So that was always my little fun fact. It was like 4,000 some feet.
Yeah, that's way more than I've ever done.
It was scary. And like 8th grade me, or going into freshman year, she was crazy, I guess. And
at 8 years, that like 8 hours, that's a full day right there of climbing. Yeah, no, I ain't got
it. Was terrible. I don't recommend it if you're not built for it, like mentally. No.
No, like half an hour is a long hike for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's long.
Again, I got bad knees. I didn't then. I do now. I'm almost 30 now.
That's right.
It's terrible.
That's good. That's
good. I'd say that.
That's a good one. I'll take that one.
Thank you. Yeah, now that you say the Big Mac thing, I don't think I ever have either.
See?
I'm weird with textures, though, so that definitely could be why.
Okay. But most people, I haven't really run into a lot of people that haven't at least like tried one.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have. I think I've tried the sauce on its own, and I was like, that's no, I can't do that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want it on my burger.
Wow.
It's like Thousand Island.
That's what I figured.
I don't even know what that really tastes like. It's been so long.
Sure.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
I think I'm probably good.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
Please tell the people where they can find you, socials, flatbacks. Plug away.
There we go. If we're interested in getting into wrestling, you can check out www.flatbackswrestlingschool.com. I believe we are also on Instagram and Twitter in some variation of Flatbacks. If you look it up, it'll be on there. If you go to my profiles, it is MmmGorgeous with 3 M's, and I got everything on my links as well. Spears does as well on his. What else? You'll find me on YouTube at UpUpDwnDwn on that channel, where we are every Wednesday night and Thursday, sometime during the day, which we normally post on our socials, so you'll see that. Aside from that, I think I've been posting a lot of my appearances of independent stuff coming up. I was just in Chicago. I was just in Ottawa. I was just in Cleveland. I got Coco coming up at the end of the month, and I got New York. And then in the new year, I got a whole bunch of stuff. So it'll be busy. I think it'll be busy getting up here in the next month.
Good. I mean, end the year with a bang, start the new year with a bang as well.
That's exactly right.
And of course, you all can follow me on Twitter, KatieRasslin13, Linktree in my bio to get everything ShElite Showcase. I'm not going to go through all the things because you know all of the things, and this is not the show for me to plug myself. This is to do this. So to everyone watching, thank you so much. We appreciate it. See you guys later.